Hey, today's Friday. I'm out here in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I made it to the Jubilee Justice organization and farm site that's led by Conda Mason, who actually started Impact Hub in Oakland. And so, yeah, I'm excited. They got a huge farm, and they're kind of just about to break it down to me and let me know what's going on. So, kind of hot out here, but yeah, stay tuned for this. Yeah, we'll start with y'all. So go ahead, tell me who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing out here.
Am I looking at you?
You look at me.
Okay, yeah. I'm Miles Gaines, farm manager at Jubilee Justice. I had an elder a few months ago tell me he sees a future in which we introduced ourselves by our biome in which came from. So I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, and my memories of Tallahassee from our 18 years there are thick, sticky air, popping into the coast, to the beach whenever I want it. Big dragonflies, Spanish moss, pine trees. That's where I come from. And my family has been in that area for at least 5 generations.
Okay.
But yeah, I left when I graduated from college, was in the Northeast for a while, got away from the land, came back, and the land was calling. So that's a brief introduction of me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes, and I'm Bernard Wynn. I'm the operations manager here with Jubilee Justice. Originally from Alexandria, I'm a native of this land right here. My family also is from Alexandria. Through generations have moved from southern Louisiana up here to central, and this is where we reside now. My background on becoming involved with Jubilee Justice was this project, migrated here with Conda to my hometown, and just from being around, I heard about this going on. So in my life at the time, I was going through this process of finding out what I wanted to do, and I knew that, I wanted to be a part of the land and taking care of the earth, the ecosystems of the world. And what I was doing at the time was not that. I was working in a restaurant, throwing away pounds of food every night, and it just didn't spiritually feel right to me. And so once I heard about this project and going on, I was full-fledged ahead, coming here, and I was willing to be open and learn. My background in farming hasn't been as extensive as what this is. It was a small family, gardens type of thing with my grandparents and things like that. So this right here has been a learning experience, different ways to grow rice, different effects that agriculture has on the environment, and all those different things. And so it's been a great journey, and we're continuing to do it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Indeed.
And so you're not started, or you say your background's not in farming.
Not
Traditionally.
Not at this level. No, not with rice. It's the first time growing rice. Yes, I've done the okras and the peas. The things that Black people usually grow in their gardens, the home, the mustard greens, collard greens, things like that I've done. But on this scale with rice, yes, this is my first time. I'm new to it, but I'm learning, and it feels good. Yeah.
Okay. And Ghana, just introduce yourself real quick and what you do.
Yeah, hi, I'm Conda Mason. I am the founder of Jubilee Justice, and I'm the founder of Jubilee Justice, and I located ourselves here because I have a friend, Elizabeth Keller, who her family owns this land in Louisiana, and I'm from Oakland, California. Well, I was living in Oakland, California, not from there. But when this project jumped off, we knew that we needed some land, and she offered us to be here. So I started the project here in Alexandria, Louisiana, on this organic farm.
Okay, cool. And I'm gonna swing it back to you, Miles. Right?
Yeah.
So what's your responsibilities here at Jubilee for Justice? And
Jubilee Justice.
yeah.
So managing this farm, we focus on rice and legumes and sesame primarily, but we'll also be doing moringa for the first time this year. We also have a cohort of farmers with whom we collaborate with, share equipment with, and all the interactions and all the ways we engage with them. We all do it collectively, but I'm like the point person for that. So managing this farm and interacting with our farmers and making sure our farmers are good. So, for example, we have a direct seeder that we use here and that some of our other farmers use. And we have a combine, which we can go over there, like a small Japanese combine that harvests grains. And when we are traveling somewhere to do that, me and Bernard now are the ones moving that equipment around.
Okay, so just like specialists with like the equipment and making sure that everything's taken care of in regards to the operations, like.
Yeah, this farm and then our farmers is like where my focus is. Yeah.
Okay. And how long have, like, you said you spent some time in the Northeast,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of call back to the land.
Yeah.
Can you speak a bit more on that?
Sure. Ironically, my farm journey started in the Northeast on an oyster farm.
Where at specifically?
Westport, Connecticut. I
Oh,
went to
wow.
school in New Haven, Connecticut, at Yale. And during that time, I was like, I wanna be outside, you know. Like I was very much so on path to do some sort of indoor job, which I actually did for a short bit. I worked in software, but I worked on an oyster farm and then an educational farm. Started running farmers markets. Even when I moved to New York for a couple of years, and when I was in software, I was still working on urban farms, specifically Hattie Carthen urban farm in Bed-Stuy. I volunteered for a little bit. But you know, wherever I've been for the past decade, I've had my hands in the soil in something, whether volunteering or actually working for a farm. And then right before the pandemic, I was like, it was me and my girlfriend. We were both questioning many existential things about how we were living. And right before the pandemic, we left both of our jobs, and then I went to Mississippi afterwards to help a family friend start a hemp farm. So that's kind of like that was like, from that oyster farm to the hemp farm was like over 6 years of me just kind of hopping around. And coming back south, it was a spiritual calling, man. You know, I was, especially when I knew that I wanted to do something agriculturally, farm. I knew I wanted to farm in some aspect, whether it was just have a garden or literally for production and to feed community. But I got away from that, and I would have like my dreams and my heart were all just like, yo, and my ancestors, like, with the exception of my parents, especially on my dad's side, like, there's been some sort of land stewardship going on, which is a history of most of us Black folks, right? But yeah, my trajectory has been getting a little away from the path after having a calling and starting to listen to the land more and the spirit more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, shit, out here I can actually hear the land. Yeah, you can literally hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, dope. Let's go look at some of this. Let's go look at some of this. Some of this farm life.
Let's go to our plot 3, which is our most beautiful rice plot right now. Yeah, so we are doing right now 3 acres of rice, and over the next 2 weeks we'll be planting about 2-ish acres of cowpeas and sesame. And our rice plots, we're doing jasmine rice, a red rice called IITA, but we're gonna rename it, and then a black rice, which is so beautiful, called Dragon Eyeball. And yeah, we're going to this rice. So I guess like most of what we've done thus far has been small hand scale intimate stuff. So this was our hand scale plot right here.
So this is rice right here.
No, this is all cover crops.
Uh,
Because this is like our first year going into like production. Like we've been this is like relatively small space right here. We had this and like this plot right here last year.
and break down a cover crop for me.
Yeah, so you have your cash crop. So for us, it's rice, right? And rice has its season, or rice, cowpeas, sesame, all warm weather crops. And we're growing rice and sesame and cowpeas roughly between the window of April to like September, let's say. So then that's a certain period of time. What is happening in the field when you don't have your cash crops in the ground?
Yeah, it's like the recovery crop or the repair crop.
Exactly. So, for example, sun hemp right now is a legume. It's fixing nitrogen, and it's also giving us a lot of biomass, which is also suppressing other weeds that we don't want. So when we come back, we'll have a little bit less weed pressure, ideally. And even with cover crops, ideally your cover crop is also a cash crop. You don't want just something growing. If you can, so like maybe we did, like last year we did rye as a cover crop, which rye has all sorts of uses, right? You got rye bread, you got different beers and stuff.
Oh, true.
But really it's something to help improve soil health, feed all the little microorganisms, soil structure, as opposed to just leaving it bare ground. We as best as we can, we want to keep soil covered.
Yeah. And so how large is this plot right here?
About an acre, just short of an acre.
Okay. Cool.
You're gonna see when you get to the field. But traditionally, when you see rice growers, you see a flooded field, with paddy. And so our focus is not to do it like that because of the effect that has on the greenhouse gases, like methane, which is off gas whenever they leave those fields flooded like that.
Okay.
So we're doing the system of rice intensification, SRI.
Yeah.
And it's a dryland style of growing rice where we intermediately flood our furrows to water the plants, but we do not, as you can see, we don't leave the water just flooded across the entire field. So that's our practice, to be more friendly to the environment. And it's better for the plant too. It also, it allows each individual plant to produce more with the spacings that we have. As you can see, we've got 12-inch spacing in between each plant, and allows each plant to produce more. And so theoretically, using less seed, you can get the same amount of production as you would, broadcasting it out through the field.
And
the other part about it is that
go ahead.
When you keep any roots submerged in water, it's only going to grow so much, because roots also need oxygen.
Yeah.
And so when the roots are submerged in water, the plants are stunted. So you need more plants to, rather than fewer plants. So when you get rid of the water, the roots are able to really grow, and you get all the biology is happening under the soil. And that makes a healthier, bigger plant. And so that also contributes to why the plants are healthier, because the water submersion can only do so much for a plant after a while.
And so right now we're like, this is rice right here. This is of the grass family.
This isn't rice.
But you can see like there's
this is weeds.
Other weeds here that also look like grass. But in this system, we recently worked this soil, meaning we tilled it recently. And
by hand or by machine?
With a machine.
Okay.
This is our first time doing that.
Yeah, and there's a couple of reasons why we did that. It's on a clean slate in terms of our weed management. And ideally, this is the only time we ever have to disrupt the soil structure.
And we've never been out here before either. This is our first time in this field. This field, we'd never grown anything, so we tried to do it without the tilling, but it didn't work. We had to get it going. So yeah, our ideal is never to do that again. But
Yeah. And if you can imagine, like, the reason we don't want this to be like a one and done thing, like, there's a whole world of life. And in any other circumstance, if you were to come through and pulverize something, you're severely disrupting that life. So from this point,
from the tilling.
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
You know, if you can imagine, if we were to put a tiller to the trees or to us, you know, we get shredded and pulverized, right? So, you know, through cultivation, mechanical cultivation, like we have these sweeps that'll come through, and once this is dry enough next week, these sweeps will come through and clean out these, basically just come just underneath the soil surface to kill weeds like this in between. But just in terms of, like, we want to be, in addition to growing food, we want to be able to build the soil,
yeah,
build the earth. And I don't want to completely poo-poo tillage right now, because it gave us ability to
right.
manage weeds. But as a long-term strategy, as a 5, 10-year, 100-year strategy,
Yeah.
this is not
Yeah,
this is
it's
not
gotta stop.
this is not gonna this is not what's gonna build the earth, you know.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Dust
what,
bowl.
we have something that we've been calling soil first, and you know, farming, everybody's addicted to the chemicals and to tilling, and when you understand the biology that's happening with the roots, how things grow, how photosynthesis comes through the plant, and the plant then turns that into sugars, and the sugars go into the roots, and then the different the biology that's happening under there, and how the roots actually grow, and it feeds back to the from the fungi and the bacteria, and they eat from the roots, and it's like this, what they call a closed loop, a poop loop. So the biology, all the little microorganisms that's in the soil, are taking that sugar from the roots of the plant and then pooping and giving that back to the plant, and it's like this whole closed loop. And so that's not happening in farming anymore, hardly. It's like we are supplementing the biology that should be taking place with chemicals, because then when you till so much and you plow and till, all of that biology gets disturbed, and the carbon that is also in this loop, instead of it coming down into the soil, it gets released into the atmosphere. And so a lot of when we talk about CO2 in the atmosphere, and that farming is a big part of global warming and climate change, is because we're releasing the carbon that's in the soil into the atmosphere that should be in the soil. And so all of that, and so it's like white rice, right? And then you take rice, you take off, you mentioned brown rice. Brown rice is actually, all rice is brown until you actually polish it. There's a hull on the rice. So first, the rice seed, you have a rice seed, and you mill it and you take the hull off, because you can't eat it the way it is. So once you take the hull off, you have brown rice. Then what we typically do is we then go another step and we polish and take the germ off of the rice, the bran. And when you take that, that's where all the nutrients are. You take that off and you get white rice. And then you see enriched white rice, where they got the white rice, they took it all, taken all the good stuff off, all the nutrients off, and then they put it back in chemicals. It's a ridiculous process. And so it's just the mindset of how it's a different mindset that is not connected to how life actually works. Because we kill life and then we try to put it back in. So why not just don't kill life?
And to that point, I'm thinking about, like, the, I guess, philosophy approach to weed management, for example, is
Right.
kill that weed, like,
That's
kill
right.
that weed, kill that pest.
Kill the weed.
But the weed is there because there is something happening in the soil that it likes, and it's telling you something.
Yep.
So that, like, all of us here, that's where we're trying to really hone in on, like, what is this
Right.
Curly dock, which is one of our most aggressive weeds. What is curly dock trying to tell us before we just, which is one of the reasons why we tilled out here. What is nutsedge trying to tell us? Why are you here? And these weeds are part of successions. Like they're succeeding. Eventually, if we were to just leave this untouched for a while, it would succeed and it will turn into a forest eventually. So there's there's laws at play and systems at play that it's gonna, for us to be sustainable, it's gonna take a bit more than just coming out and destroying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's interesting too that you said there's laws at play in like this field. Like if you didn't touch this field, it would grow into a forest.
Yeah.
Like
without us doing anything.
yeah,
The
this
earth
is
covers itself. It naturally covers itself. And whenever you drive down the road and you're in agriculture country and you see bare soil, that's human made. Soil should never be bare. Never bare. Earth does not have bare soil,
yeah.
but we do. And when we do that, that actually it becomes a situation where when the soil is covered or when it's not covered is very different in terms of its water retention, right? Like the water, you'll have water roll off as opposed to the water absorbing into the soil. And so what we're trying to do is create conditions where the soil is, when it's healthy, it absorbs the water, there's no runoff. The carbon is being captured into the soil. The microbes are happy, everybody's eating, and the plants are growing well. And like you said, one of the things that we've been talking about is this whole thing, the weed management. That's the whole thing. Farming is actually weed management.
Mm-hmm.
That's what farming is. It's weed management.
And then
it's like, what does that mean?
and I was going to ask you about that because you mentioned you're saying, what are the weeds telling us? So what kind of studying and what kind of information are you getting from these weeds currently that are informing you guys about your process?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah,
man.
that's what we're in the midst of.
Yeah.
I think right now I just know what Doc likes and what it can tolerate.
Yeah.
But I don't know like what it is exactly, what it likes about this, and like what we can do. Like now that we know what it likes and the conditions it likes, how can we create a system that allows for the maximization of this potential of this plant right here, and also we'd like to see the dock go away. Like
Absolutely. Absolutely. The dock is, exactly.
So I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah. That's what we're looking at is observation is the first principle. That's the first principle in permaculture and in life is observation. And what that means is what we've been looking at is noticing where is the curly dot? Where is it not? Like there's an interesting part of like one section that we have that we call a plot. And part of the plot, there's a lot of curly dot. And then at the other end, there's not. It's like, okay, so what is the difference? So starting with observation is, and that takes
Years.
That takes seasons. You're looking and watching what shows up where does it not show up? Like last year, a certain plot that we have right now did really well with the mulch that we used, which was a hay mulch. We didn't have to weed it, but one time I think we weeded it once. This year, that same plot, not the same hay, it's hay though, we're weeding it constantly. So we think that the hay had seeds in it that created the conditions that we're in. So everything is just a lot. Farming is observation and looking at the earth and seeing what is happening, being able to then take the knowledge that you get from that is telling you, and then you bring out the books and you say, okay, well, what does this mean? And that's what we're learning. And there are hard lessons sometimes, you know.
Yeah, I want to say something because we have someone who I see as a mentor who we collaborate with intimately, Mark Fulford,
Yeah.
who introduced to me and us, which we tried to pull off, but we couldn't pull off at the beginning of the year. So with cover crops, we had clover as a cover crop. And I will I'm just going to YouTube or wherever. I want somebody else to just like play with this because this is the system we're trying to move towards ideally. We had clover as a cover crop. We came through. We flail mowed our cover crops. Clover is we had a perennial clover that will come back and kind of dominate. I don't think we had enough. We've been here a little under 2 years, so I don't think we had enough time to really get a handle on the other weeds. But what we were trying to do was, okay, now that we flail mowed and know that clover is going to regrow, how can we keep that clover down long enough so by the time, let's say, the rice is here, there's no bare, because right now we do have bare ground in between, right? That means the sun is hitting directly on the soil, and that is not necessarily a climate resilient system, having sun directly on the soil. And you can imagine if this was covered, there's more moisture retention. But something we tried to do but we couldn't pull off this season was keeping that clover long enough until this rice rose and having clover be like an understory as this rice is maturing. And even in the Donna's plot over there, which is a true no-till plot, last year, even through the hay, there was clover creeping through, but it wasn't really affecting the growth of the rice.
Right.
That's one area of land. We only been there for a short amount of time, but it was enough for us and Mark Fulford, who's been a farmer for quite a long time. We've seen it in other areas of the world. How can we, as we move towards a less tillage and ideally a no-till system, if that's possible, how can we have not just a monoculture right here? Yes, we're rotating, we're growing many things, but how can we encourage symbiosis between different plants? So where the soil is covered. So that's just something I'm thinking with. I'm hoping some other growers see that and run with it.
Man, so this feels like this land and just this conversation at this particular conversation really felt like a research project or
It
like
is
a lab.
research project.
That's
It's a
what we
lab.
are.
That's what we are.
Jubilee Justice, this farm, when we came here, this was set up as a lab. It actually is a lab. And so where all of that, where the cover crops are that we showed you earlier, that has been, this is their first time not doing trials, rice trials. So that has been our rice trial plot where we've had up to 35, 33 different varieties of rice. And so we've learned like what rice grows best in the South, in the Southeast, what specialty rice. We've learned spacing, different spacings. We've learned so much from this crop. So then we've tried, last year we also had a mulch trial, like different mulches that we use, what worked, what didn't work. And so we here, SRI, as Bernard was saying, it's not happened here in the South before. And we are trialing it. And as we trial it, we pass the learnings on to the farmers that are in the cohort. What to do, what not to do. And sometimes some of the things that they do, they teach it's not a one-way street, because they'll do something and go, oh, that's better. And so we're learning with each other, essentially. But this is the first time this year where we're actually doing rice as production. Like, you see all this rice. Like, we haven't done a big field of rice yet. This is our first year doing production because we have a mill and we got to fill it with rice, right? But typically, we've just been doing all trials. So yeah, this is a place that has been a laboratory. And equipment. We're trying all kinds of different equipment. What is the kind of equipment that's necessary for SRI? American equipment, primarily ag equipment, is on the large scale. It's not for small scale farmers. And so our combine, as Miles said, is from Japan. We have a transplanter from Italy. We're looking at how can we create the conditions and the kind, because where SRI is big, so SRI, System of Rice Intensification, is all over the world. There are hundreds of thousands of farmers doing this in Asia and Africa. Okay, Cornell University is helping create those conditions. And so is the woman that works with us, Erica Steiger from Cornell. She has been all over us, particularly Africa, spreading how to do SRI. Here's the deal, is that it's labor intensive. And so in those places you have villages. So when it's time to plant, the whole village comes out and everybody plants. Time to harvest, everybody comes out, time to harvest. In order for it to scale here, we don't have those conditions. Obviously, we don't have those kinds of people, or lone farmers who barely have family helping them typically these days. So it has to be done by machinery. And the machinery doesn't exist. And what we're doing is trying to work those conditions so that we can actually help create equipment that will be specifically for SRI. And so we actually have this wonderful meeting coming up on Monday with a young man who hacks equipment. And he's been paid by an organization, who's a funding organization. They've hired him to find small farms, find out where the gaps are in their equipment, and see if we can make it.
Yeah.
And when he found out about us, it was like, oh my God. He's like, I can't wait. So we meet with him on Monday, next Monday, and we're hopeful that we can show him the things that are needed to do this regeneratively. So with no-till, so we can have no-till conditions, no-till direct seeding, no-till transplanting, and as well as harvesting and a cultivator. So those are the things that are really necessary. And we hope to be able to be helpful to future farmers who will be coming up and doing SRI. Because we hope that all rice farmers will eventually be SRI. It's important to the planet that we change. We can't continue to farm rice with all the water that is off-gassing methane. They say that 14% of all the methane in the atmosphere comes from rice.
So when I'm looking at, like photos of like China and Japan with the mountains and the rows, and they're up to water in their knees.
Yeah.
That's
contributing to
I actually
greenhouse
read
gas to the
recently
methane.
that China has been, I think through policy, encouraging a lot of their farmers to shift away from permanently flooded. So I think that is happening in China as they kind of move away from that.
Yeah. And that's even an interesting part too, how you talk about community. Like we don't have a dedicated rice farming community, let alone a community of farmers that will bring out the whole town. I can only imagine like if all of East Oakland came out and we were just, you know what I mean? Like the agriculture culture of harvest celebrations, working, tilling, you know what I mean? Just everything that goes into being in alignment with the seasons and the food and the produce.
It's so interesting because when I think of farming, why do you farm? I think farmers they love to see life grow, right? We love to see life grow. But most farmers are killing life in order for life to grow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Destructive practices.
Yeah, it's deep. Most farmers don't even touch the soil anymore. They're only in their tractors and machines. And it was funny because when we went to Mr. Sanders and one of our farmers in Mississippi, we were talking to him, and the very first time when we planted, he was down there on the ground. He said, I haven't touched the soil in so long.
Whoa.
Wow.
He said, this is like the old days.
Which is, to that point, I think a lot of, especially older farmers I've talked to, like there is a marked difference between like what they may have been doing for the past few decades and how they might have grown up.
Right.
In terms of relationship to land.
Yeah, because when we first meet our farmers, we always ask them like, so how did your father farm? How did your grandfather farm? They get these big smiles and go, yeah, they did it naturally. That's what they call naturally. And now everybody, the big chemical companies have everybody addicted to them. And, seeds, you can't even save your own seeds. I mean, it's crazy. And so it's a whole new world of farming and people are stuck in it. And so we're trying to get out of that. And then the whole thing about rice. There's a whole reason for rice, and I don't know if you want to have that conversation now or we could do it on the couch. It's probably a better conversation. This one here is jasmine, and which, as you know, is a fragrant rice, and it is you think of it as an Asian rice, and then the second half of this plot, which didn't do well, is called IITA. It's a red rice.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to figure out different reasons why it didn't come up well. We have some ideas. We know some things. We planted it when it was really hot.
Mm-hmm. When we tried to do the no-till, it kind of pushed us back a little bit. But...
Yeah, that pushed us back. And it was so hot, and the rice it's too hot to plant.
So what's the calendar year like for rice? Like in the ground versus production?
What is ideal and what's been happening is very you know, climate change is doing all kinds of stuff. It's pushing everybody. It's been every year we're later than we want to be. Either it's too much rain. We should be in like March, April. April we should be planting in April, and we haven't done that once.
Mm.
We did it May. We've done May.
We did transplanted those Gone spot in April.
Is that a big deal that month?
Sorry?
Like missing a month or being late on a month?
Well,
is that a
it
big
just
deal?
pushes it back. It's like a 4-month plant.
Okay.
And it pushes it back. So this here is called dragon eyeball. I don't know if you can see the coloration, the dark color. It's a black rice.
And this pigment will go with it all the way to seed. We could actually grab some seed just to look at dragon eyeball seed. One of our
red pigment right here.
Yeah,
Black,
red,
red,
whatever you see, but this dark hue right here is will go with it all the way to the grain that we will eventually eat.
Wow.
Coyote friends.
Yeah, they've been out here.
Yeah.
Where about?
Some
Coyotes, they've been walking all over here.
Mm-hmm.
Coyotes?
They're seeing paw prints.
Are you seeing paw prints?
Yeah, over there is big paw prints.
But
Whoa.
nothing, no damage?
No damage. They're not.
Okay.
They're not searching for
They might, be,
rice.
they might be doing pest control, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they. They're searching out raccoons.
We have wild pigs that come out from behind, way over there.
Get
in the
out.
back.
Loud too
But
with
now
it.
that corn, they got to get through that corn.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. They
That
shouldn't
corn
come
is a
over
nice
here.
barrier.
Yeah.
I like that corn there now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we are very happy with Dragon Eyeball right now.
Tell me more about dragon eyeball. Like,
I honestly do not know much about its genetic history
Origin, yeah.
or origin.
Yeah, we get our seeds. We've been getting our seeds from a woman named Anna McClung, who's at a USDA Rice Research Center in Arkansas. And she's just been so generous, and supplying us with seeds. She just retired at the end of this month. She retires next week. But she gave us this seed from the very beginning. And we love it. Our first year, it didn't do well, and we realized we didn't give it enough. We didn't give it enough water. It needs a little bit more water, and so. But one of our farmers in Mississippi, his first year, Dragon Eyeball was off the chart. It did so well, and he created like a moat system around the rice so that the rice wasn't flooded. It was like this, but there was a moat around it that kept water in it, and the water would seep in. And he created, and if you look at the book Black Rice, you'll see that moat system in Africa. And so I don't know that he knew that.
It was in his bones.
It's just in his, I think it's in his bones, in his DNA. Something told him to put a moat around it. But yeah, Dragon Eyeball is looking really good, isn't it? I'm so happy.
and is this an acre?
Yeah, this is about an acre right here. Yeah. Wasn't Dragon Eyeball the variety used for that beer?
No, we used actually HB1.
Oh, for real? I thought it was Dragon Eyeball. Okay.
What kind
It
of?
was HB1.
Well, you were making a rice beer, or is it just
We
kind
didn't
of
make
wet?
it. There's a black brewmaster. I forgot his name.
Yeah, a brother reached out. He found us online. There is a black craft brewery festival every year in Pennsylvania, and this brother, I forget his name too, he's in Brooklyn. He is the main master brewer of all the black brewers, not just all the brewers in America. This guy is amazing. He's like considered like the top brewer. And he found us online. He's always sourcing from black farmers for his beer. And so we said, sure. He asked us, could we get him some rice? And so we went to somebody else's mill. We harvested some rice. We milled some rice for him and sent it to him in Brooklyn. And he made this incredible beer. I'll show you the can. I should show you the can, actually. He made this incredible beer. We went to the festival in Pittsburgh, and it was our first time doing that. It was just an experiment.
Yeah, sweet. And so this dirt is red out here.
It's wet?
Red.
Red.
So we're actually near the Red River, which is, I think the Red River starts in, I want to say Arizona. Oklahoma?
It starts in Oklahoma?
But it's passing through like a bunch of red soils. And I believe, I think, was part of this submerged? Do y'all know?
Yeah, this was, for a long time, whenever it rains, this here would flood.
Wow.
You know, before the irrigation ditches got dug to let the water flow towards the river. But it's bayous all around us. And this land, like you say, we wouldn't have touched it, it would have been swampland, you know, so.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's where we're, and river land. And a lot of that sand from that river just gets washed this way, you know. Same as when you go to, let's say like Georgia, when you get closer to the coast, they have more sandy soils because they're closer to the coast, you know, so.
Got it.
That's what we're dealing with here with the red hue.
Sure. And so it's, I know it's something in particular to stay hyper local, kind of when you're bringing in different aspects of farming and agriculture, so that you can kind of be consistent with what you're doing. Is there anything else too about like maybe the water or this location that's special for rice farming?
I wouldn't say rice farming. We got a lot of iron in our water.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the only a good positive thing about this area is the water table. It's pretty high, you know, so we don't have problems with drought, you know, and things like that, because the water table is pretty high. So when it rains, the soil stays moist for a longer period of time, and that's, you know, favorable for rice. So
Okay.
that's
Yeah, we are, even in droughts, like it was a drought last year, a long stretch from maybe mid-spring to hurricane season, which is around August. It was, you could count on one hand how many times it rained. But still, this area just holds water, and the water table is high. Because we have a well that we can pump water from, and because water just like, I don't know, one of our biggest issues is having too much water in some areas. Like, in terms of our rotation, right? Like, yes, rice here loves this very moist area, but we will be rotating cowpeas here probably next year. Cowpeas don't like wet feet, you know, so that's something we got to navigate in figuring out how can we not have water sitting as much here. Like right now we got these borders built up to kind of help retain water, but it'll be a different story once we have a different crop here. So.
Okay. Cool. And so this field right here is just wildflowers,
This is
weeds.
This is all wild, but we will have something in there eventually. But being our first year of production, we didn't want to just go. Without, you know, just
you can't grow rice in every plot you have for rotational sake.
Sure.
So, you know, you leave it as it is because we don't want it bare, you know, so that's covering the soil. And, you know, next season we'll come through, we'll terminate all of that, and maybe we'll have rice there next year, and like you said, we'll have cowpeas over there. And right there we'll have something else growing in that next plot you see over, we'll have rice over there. So it's for rotational purposes. We can't just grow everything every year, you know, you gotta.
Yeah.
And speaking of diversity, yes, rice is our baby, but you know, something that has like happened recently. So we just 2 minutes down the road, we have a mill that will be able to process rice, other grains, other seed crops like sesame. But we are, in addition to, in terms of where we want to move, we want to be diversified in the grains that we grow. So we want to grow not just rice, but maybe sorghum or millet. You know, but I don't know if we'll go to the mill while you're here, but we have a capacity to handle a lot more than just rice and legumes.
Yeah. All right.
And of course, you know, in trying to replicate all the beautiful things the earth presents to us, we want to have that diversity, you know.
Sure. Yeah. Now, break down like a work day. I know it's not typical because it's ever changing, but like break down a work day. When you getting up? You know what I mean? Like, how long are you out here?
So right now it's incredibly dangerously hot, especially around noon on until the sun sets. So we usually pop out usually 6 or 7 in the morning. We're here, especially during the season when it's hot out. You know, if it was spring, we would be prepping this, focusing on planting, and also at that same time, we're sharing equipment with folks. So it was kind of like a tight line. We're planting, then we're on the road sharing equipment. While we're on the road, Jose or someone is like managing irrigation. So yeah, then like right now, we're focused on cultivation, right? So next week, once this dries up a bit more, we'll be coming through and weeding. Usually each week I'm talking to one of our farmers about something. Either just checking in, hey, how did the stand come up from the planting we just did the other day? We have a farmer an hour south of us who is doing a rotation of crawfish and rice. And we've been kind of playing this like waiting game of, okay, crawfish season ends, need to dry out the pond. How soon can we get in?
Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So crawfish in like a man-made pond?
Yeah.
Then they grow the crawfish, pluck them, whatever, clear out the pond, and then plant rice?
Yeah. This will be our first year doing it, but
damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it really varies with the season. I wouldn't really say there's a typical day. And then, especially last year when we were a little bit more intensive on our experimentation, we were collecting data across different varieties. So there was a lot of data collection, a decent amount of time in Excel, kind of making sense of the data. Okay, I know, right?
Hey,
but you know, what are these? What do we observe? Like, okay, we put in all these numbers in one place. What does it tell us about? Okay, about growth cycles and who's tillering, which is grain-bearing branches of the plant. Who's putting out more of those? Who is, you know, what spacings are working for different varieties? Yeah, we have this 12 by 12 spacing as a general layout, but you know, last year we saw some of our more slender plants could have been a tighter spacing for you.
Yeah.
but man, so how high will this rice grow when it's ready to?
I'll show you some pictures from,
Different varieties have different heights. Like, remember the gopher?
Gopher.
Oh, gopher was tall. Also, it's called Carolina Gold. Carolina Gold is tall. And then you've got HB1. It's like short. The varieties are so different. They're like
Trees almost.
completely different plants, and it's amazing to see them. So yeah, some are tall and thin, others are bushy and short.
So in a month or so, like this is the jasmine plant right here.
Oh, that's
And
beautiful.
soon it will start to bear panicles maybe a few weeks from this point. But that was like up in this range.
Jasmine?
Yeah. And the
And
gopher.
big and
Yeah,
wide.
and they
Jasmine
bush out.
tillers.
About 4 feet.
And this is the HB1. This is also a black variety, but
once it starts to shoot off the grain bearing panicles.
Oh, so this is the rice right here.
Yeah, that's rice right there.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even know what a rice plant looks like.
I know I didn't.
And what part, and we didn't. You know?
Me too.
The first year,
Trying to keep it real with y'all out here.
Nutsedge and rice look so close together, doesn't it? And nutsedge is this right here. So this is nutsedge, right? And look at rice. When rice is small, it looks sort of like that. But you could tell the nutsedge because they're like they're spiny and thin and they look like they're sharp. You know what I mean? As opposed to kind of more.
There's a bit more shine to it.
Yeah, they got a shine to them.
Jeez.
But I remember, man,
Me
when
too.
I was
Me too.
Thought you were
weeding the
doing
rice,
something.
and I was literally weeding the rice out. Couldn't tell the difference between nutsedge and the rice.
You know what's standing out to me as I'm talking with farmers and what you guys are bringing up is your all's ability with attention and detail, and how being on this land and working the land trains your eye and calms the mind to be able to focus.
Yeah.
And you know, she kind of mentioned earlier, like how, especially like big agriculture, there's like a loss of intimacy with plants. And like right now, this space that we're looking at is roughly 10-ish acres. Not all of it is in production, but to me, this feels like a lot of space.
Yeah.
And this is a big space, and I can't really. Maybe a little bit bigger than that, you know, at some point in my life. But you know, it's a lot. And even since we started doing tractors this year, like I had to be very intentional to be like to still do this right here. It's easy to just come through, we cultivate, and oh, it looks clean from afar, but
Right.
to be up close and like, oh, I see that this, even though it looked beautiful, there's something going on here. There's these lacerations going on right here.
Yeah, exactly. I was looking at that.
And so those lacerations mean something at this stage already.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
what we would do
Like,
is take
what
a
is that?
picture. There's a whole bunch of rice diagrams that LSU Ag does, for
Yeah,
example.
like what is that? What is that?
The plant is green and it still has this dark hue, so it's happy in some regard, but this could be an issue in a month or so.
Yeah, because I'm seeing you guys pull and weed right now, and I'm like, no, that's real work that you guys are doing. Like,
We will not be hand weeding this.
No.
No.
But like that essentially
Yes.
is what has to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you get to this scale, like it would be impossible to come out and weed this with just our tiny group right now.
Right.
We're talking like the village.
The village. Let's
Exactly.
get the village.
Get the village.
The village, baby.
Get
Go
a
back to the
whole-
village. I think agriculture is really. I keep thinking. I say, okay, you believe in God or the universe or whoever. It's like, okay, put food on this planet for us to eat, but it's made it really hard to get to. Really hard to get to with all the pests and the weeds and everything. It's like, are we supposed to eat or what? You know? And then I think, well, actually, it's made for villages. Agriculture is actually made for people to live in villages.
And I can imagine it was born out of.
And as we have separated and become individuated and all this, and particularly in this country, you know, the individual, the rustic individual, I've done it by myself, you know, the Lone Ranger. That ain't the real way that we're supposed to be living on the planet. And agriculture reminds us that village living is actually, I think, the way it's meant to be. Because you can eat. More mouths to feed, but more hands to make it possible. I don't know. It shouldn't be this hard to eat.
It should. It really should not.
We're made with a mouth and digestive system. Something's supposed to go inside it. It's not Coca-Cola or Cheetos.
Yeah, this will keep us humble. You know, like, yeah, you can eat, but you're gonna work for every last
You're
bit
gonna
of
have
it.
to work for it. That's right. And that's why it's such a noble, I mean, being a farmer, you know, farming is like, there's no better profession. And our people have been, you know, it's like farming is the scene of the crime. The farm is the scene of the crime. And it was the scene of the crime, and so we've left it. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've left the scene of the crime. We don't want to have anything to do with that. You think of farming like, oh, that's going backwards. And that couldn't be less true. The nobility of growing food for yourself and for others, being a part of the life cycle of the earth and humans and animals and how the whole system works. Sitting in an office at a desk, that's noble.
Which I've done before.
We all have, right? $100,000, $200,000 salaries.
Okay, yeah. You know what's interesting? I was just listening to something, which kind of, for most of, like, when I think about Black folks, my own family, and perhaps an aversion to land stewardship, this idea of the farmer being at the bottom is like millennia old. Like, if you look at old records of across all societies, there were kings and queens whose feet couldn't touch the ground.
Right, exactly.
Because it's beneath them. This is like a very old, which is like so strange and
interesting.
But of course, I think the Black America's experience is a very visceral version of that.
Violence. It's associated with violence.
Yeah, and I get it. And I understand.
Yep, it's associated with violence, and
I get it.
And
but yeah. And I think, even like my own, like I had a magical 2 years in doing oyster farm, managing a farm at my college, and did a independent project. And then I was like, am I about to farm? And I talked myself out of it. And that's when I went to New York and worked with software for a couple of years. And I was like, am I about to farm? Like, and also at that point, my only vision was the single farmer on a farm,
right? Which
is like kind of the American
way, by myself.
Yeah, so it took some reimagining. Yeah, it took some reimagining, and I'm very grateful since I've been at Jubilee Justice. Whether I'm here or the other farms, like everything you see out here was done by multiple, at least 3.
We become the village.
Yeah.
We drive up and we become the village.
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting how like I, even after having some magical moments with folks on land, like was like, am I really about to do this? And then I remember like I'm often barefooted, and like now we're getting to experiences words can't capture, right? Being barefoot, having the soil under your hands, or I don't know, eating a watermelon. Eating a watermelon with after coming out in the sun and eating a watermelon.
Woo.
That Ariel, one of the most pivotal pieces of Jubilee Justice. Shouts out to Ariel Edwards.
Yes.
The watermelons I'm growing right now in my garden, watermelons that we had last year, like that was a moment.
Yeah.
And everybody got it dripping all down their shirts, all over their face.
It's spiritual.
Yeah, but it's like there's nothing like that's a spiritual, familial experience.
Which is one of our pillars.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, right. Land, race, money, spirit. It was definitely the spirit from the land, and the watermelon is our. It goes with farming. It goes with coming out of the field and having a nice cold watermelon.
And we don't have watermelons over here, but you got a watermelon going at your garden.
I got watermelon.
I got one going in my garden. And the seeds I'm using seeds from Ariel last year. I'm using seeds that my mom planted in Mississippi 2 years ago that I've been saving.
Okay.
So it's like all this. This is my dog who taught me how to grow rice, and my mama. Like these were my seeds.
Yeah.
They're like babies.
Yeah. Nothing like it.
I almost want to label this conversation we had like the miseducation of the farmer.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
yes.
with chapters on the scene of the crime.
Yeah.
The scene of the crime, and we have to re-embrace and understand that what white folks did to black folks that made land a crime and made a farm a crime, we have to reclaim it, because this is the scene of life. This is the scene of birth and life and life givingness. It's not, we have to disassociate the scene of the crime with what it is. And that's the re-education for black folk with the land. That's a re-education. They don't want to have, some of people don't want to have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
It just brings back horror.
And you know, generationally, it takes a generation or two,
Yeah.
or three to forget the trauma, even though it's inherently in the DNA.
Oh, it's totally in the DNA.
But still, the barriers might be from that immediacy of child and mom, or child and parent, you know, or child, parent, and parent, grandparent rather.
Yeah.
But as soon as that's broken, or that amnesia kicks in, then there's that repatriation.
Yeah.
Of like returning.
Yeah, the trauma is so deep. You know, so deep.
Yeah, like when I was telling you, my family, I'm from Alexandria in Louisiana. Like me being here and working on this land, I talk to Miles about it all the time. I may be walking on the exact same land that my ancestors, under a different condition, but this is the same land.
Right.
You know, that's spiritual. You know, I feel
This
that.
was a cotton plantation.
This was a cotton plantation, and you know who worked the cotton fields, and we're on that same land, though. You know, so it's a very spiritual connection I have when I'm out here in the same areas of the same people, the people that I come from. You know.
And how many generations can you go back?
Generation, I can go back at least 6 generations that I know. You know,
6. Wow.
yeah, 6 generations of knowing my grandparents. Because my grandfather himself, I've had conversations with him, and he remembers watching his grandparents be chained to the porch and whipped. So that's how not far disconnected we are from this. I was able to actually speak to someone who witnessed slavery, you know, happening. You know, so it's a good thing what we're doing, like you say, to heal from all that trauma that this land was a witness to, that our spirits are witnesses to through our ancestors, and just the work that we're doing. You know, Jubilee Justice, land, race, money, spirit. It's all of that. You know, and it's something that needs to. And what we're doing, we're bringing it to the community, back to the black community. You know, we got to bring this back. It's not a forced work and then what they call it. You know, it's not slavery. It's not bad to farm. You know, to grow things. I know that's what the trauma tells us, but yeah, just the reimagining of.
Do you have to do like mental checks or mental resets, you know, when working with others, specifically white folks, or just like throughout this process, and as it gets so personal often, and you go through those ebbs and flows and those spiritual and emotional charges, you know, like what kind of self-talks do you have, or what kind of insights do you have to kind of bring you back to center when, as the story you just mentioned, you know, like I felt that, right? Like I made my own visual just with what you described. Like how do you stay balanced within that? You know, because the violence is still happening.
Yeah.
In multiple facets, even though we're in the midst of researching and making this possible. So like, how do you guys kind of stay centered and not, you know what I mean, set this bitch off?
You're talking about something that's a really good question, and it's interesting for everybody to answer that for themselves. I think that I would say that an overarching principle that Bernard mentioned, Jubilee Justice, the pillars are land, race, money, and spirit that we deal with, that we address. And the spiritual aspect it so I personally am a mindfulness teacher and a Dharma teacher, Buddhism, and I know that at the core of me is I'm always working on is to have equanimity in all of life. No matter what happens, the wind's going to blow us this way or that way. Things are going to happen. How do you keep yourself in a place of an equanimous mind? And so that is my practice always, constantly. And it's no different than here, whether it's on the land. And I try to, one of the things is that compassion and self-compassion is really at the core for me. And oftentimes we talk about compassion for others, but self-compassion is like is key. And it's really hard for us to look at that. Like, what is self-compassion? What does that have to do with anything? When things happen and when we have that moment of whether it's anger or hate or, retribution or whatever it might be, calming ourselves and knowing that our bodies just went through something, our psyche is going through something. Can we center and bring in a compassion for ourselves for knowing that it's hard being human. It's hard being a black woman. It's hard being a black woman in the South or whatever it might be. And so these are the kinds of practices that help me. And to also know that everybody's traumatized. White folks are traumatized. We're all traumatized. The history of this country is one of deep trauma. And nobody's getting out of the trauma. And so we're all living it out in different ways. How do we get to the place to where we can, and that's why we have another program. I'm a filmmaker too, so I'm aware of that. How do we have another program called Jubilee Justice Journeys. And the Journeys program is dealing with, like, if this is the hardware out here, it's the software. It's like, who are we as human beings and who do we need to be? Who do we need to be in order to, one, dismantle white supremacy, right? Both, all of us, white people, black people, everybody together. How do we live free of it within our own psyche? And the Jubilee Justice Journey program, we have this 2-year course called Our Ancestral Journey, and it's half white people and half black people working together through those issues. And so it's an incredible program. It's deep, and it influences everything that we do, and for us to look at us, we don't have to be victims anymore. We have the capability of self-determination, of self-love, of self-compassion, and to be in front of those emotions that are going to come. Can we be in front of them and look at them and say, oh, this is happening now to me. I'm pissed off at what she just did and said. The microaggressions, the racism that we confront. How do I transform that from something that's actually eating me up? I'm not doing anything. My reaction is my reaction. Can I respond instead of react? And that is where, for me, mindfulness comes in, because it creates that gap. It's that gap when something happens, a stimulus happens, and then you react. What mindfulness does is create a gap so that something happens and you have a moment, and instead of reacting, you respond, and respond with a little bit more wisdom and less reaction. You see what I mean? And so that's the practice, and that's the practice that I am, that I teach, that I try to live. I'm good at it sometimes. Sometimes I'm not so good. There's times when I'm just and I watch myself go through the machinations of anger and ups and all those things, but then I always am able to recalibrate. And how quickly can we recalibrate? And so, I mean, that's true for everything, for all of life, not just this situation. So, because it's hard being human. It's hard living with each other. And you can't control outside circumstances. I can't control what that person does and what that person says. All I can control is my inner world. How can I be kind and gentle to me? How can I not be violent to myself? Because all that stuff that churns up is violence, self-inflicted violence. So that's what we work on, and we talk about stuff like that. And you know, Bernard reminded us the other day, we had a situation and my reaction was to walk away from it. And Bernard said, no, no, no. Remember who we are. We stay with it. We work with it. He's part of the Journeys program and he's learned so much. And he brought me back to, right, Bernard, we stay with it. We don't walk away from it angry. We transform it. That's who he is, and that's who he is.
I got also a response to how I find balance, whether it be mentally or physically. I've felt the need to just keep pushing myself.
Self what?
Mentally or physically, I just felt the need to keep pushing myself, which is part of my, at least the men in my before me have done, is push themselves. And when I'm out here, whether I'm in the field or maybe inside a computer or working in some way, I have felt that kind of worn out groove of overworking, and I have to come back to yo, be cool. You can rest. You can step out of the sun. You can drink watermelon. You can, make your smoothie or take a nap during lunch. But I think I'm sure I'm not the only person or black person working land who falls into that loop. Or even just black people in general. There's this thing that I've seen of having to work in some way and hard. And I've burned out before doing it. And I think being on this land, especially given this history, even if this was not previously plantation land, I have to remind myself to rest, to lean back into pleasure, to be cool, to spend an extra 10, 30 minutes joking around, talking. Every minute is not to be filled with production.
And music and dancing.
And music, yeah.
We play the music out here.
I do that sometimes. But yeah, I think agriculture or non-agriculture, I think that feels applicable. But we do not need to grind. I do want to do good things. I want to produce food and I want to do it well. But also, I like to play. I like to fuck around and boys. But yeah, that's something I have to remind myself.
Yeah. What about you, Bernard? How do you stay?
Dealing with the pressures of, like you say, they're gonna come. What I do usually, I have kids, so I use them as a lot of my motivation in a lot of areas, decision making, responding, reacting to things. I keep them in the forefront and in the background of my mind at all times, so because they watch you. First of all, they watch you and how you respond and react to things. Secondly, they're gonna, that's the joy. Like Miles was saying, we play. That's the joy. They get you away. Once you have a situation like come to mention, a situation happens, and you realize, man, here they go again with that. You have to not engulf yourself in that, because that will become you if you do. So you step, like you say, you step back. I step back. I go sit outside with my kids on my lap, watch them play around, and just settle back down into thinking, okay, you are still here in America. We still here. We're still on this, the same way I say this land used to be plantation, and the black ancestors, we feel them. There's also the white side that was here. They're still here. Their ancestors' spirits are still here too. So it's a yin and a yang. It's the same thing. You know, as much as I, internalize it and I love the effects I get from the spirits, there are also the spirits that we don't want to, interact with that are here, and we're gonna have to interact with because it's just the way that the world works. So dealing with that, you have to find something, and I find that through my family and my kids. Just regrounding myself into not doing things that may take me away from them, or may make them people that that aggressive people in the future and things like that. So of course I'm working. I'm not perfect, but yeah, it's something that and even being here now with Conda and Miles and just this, like I said, the whole organization, it's brought me to handle things a lot differently. Just with all the conversations that I have with all these different people. I remember when I started working here, I told Miles, I said, I'm tired of meeting new people every day. I've been meeting new people every day. Like my phone book and my phone is just long as but I appreciate those conversations though and those people, because you learn, even if it's just one small little nuance, you learn different things from a lot of different people, and that's what I've been doing over this past year. So that's how I do.
One other thing I want to add is that what's also a part of our culture that's really important is truth telling.
Mm-hmm.
Truth telling. So when I talk about compassion and all of us have our things, we also confront situations with the truth. So that means if someone does something that is a microaggression or that is not cool, we deal with it, and it's really important to tell the truth about what's happening. And so this is not the, I just do my personal thing and I walk away. No, this is, we deal with it and we do our personal stuff that we take. But we absolutely, truth telling, let's talk about this. And so there's a lot of that going on, especially lately. There's been a lot of truth telling, and it's been good for everybody. It's been good for everybody, for people to see themselves, and for all of us to realize this is a community. How do we do this together with the history of this place specifically? How do we do this together in a way that's healing? Because what we are doing here is a healing force on this land. And Elizabeth Keller, who brought us here, who is an amazing, amazing individual, she inherited a plantation. She's one of a big family. And her response to that is, how do we heal this place? How do we heal the land? She turned it into an organic farm. And then it was like, so now, and that was a big lift, turn this into an organic farm. Louisiana, people said she couldn't do it. 3,600 acres. And then she said, now, how do we heal what happened to the people here? And this white woman is fierce. And when we came into each other's lives, she was like, Jubilee Justice, you come here. This is the answer to my prayers. She said, I always knew it was going to be a black woman. That a black woman would come into her life to help her with what the healing needs to happen here. And she and I met in California. And it's been an incredible journey with what she has helped, what we have co-created. What we have co-created here. So we are flipping the script on what happened here.
And in addition to that, templating a script.
Yeah. Moving forward. That's kind of what I was telling you about not walking away. Like, we would be one of the first people to ever change the trajectory of a family that, that feels this way. And it would be a precedent set for how do we heal from the traumas of those generations, those years, and 400 years of slavery, 500, whatever. There needs to be a template, a blueprint. I think that's what we're working on here.
I think we have the capability because we have, we're free Black people. We're free in our hearts. We're free in our heads. And we have some wisdom. We have tools. And we have each other. And we have intention. And our intention is around healing. And so, and being smart about it and being Black as possible, And so, and unapologetically Black. And all of that together, with the wisdom of our ancestors are holding us through this process. It was so funny because I come from California. And the day that I got here, Ariel, who used to work with us, bless her soul, she was working the rice field all by herself. And it was COVID, it was 2020. And I was like, how do I get here? So I bought an RV, I drove here, jumped out of the RV. It was harvest time in August, and I'm in the sweat. I had never been here, but like working in the South. One day, I was sweating crazy hot. And I stopped and I thought, Conda Mason, you are on a plantation in Louisiana, sweating like a pig, working and harvesting rice. How did I get here? I was in Oakland, minding my own business, fine. And here I was, and I thought, this is ancestor stuff. And I realized then, and that's when the ancestor work started, is that ancestors brought me here. This is not my idea. I wouldn't have thought this up. And I felt so driven by what has happened before, and I'm still unpacking that. And so that's why our ancestral journey is a deep dive and look at all of us, our ancestral history, and knowing that in order for us to heal forward, we got to heal backwards first. We got to go back. We like the Sankofa bird. We got to go back. We got to heal backwards in order to move forward. We can't move forward with racism, white supremacy, all the isms, everything that this country is dying from. We can't move forward if we try to ignore what happened here. And that's what they'd like us to do. That's what say, well, that was a long time ago.
It's over there.
Yeah, what does that have to do with today? Everything. Just about everything. And so what we do is we place it front and center. That's what I'm talking about, truth telling. We got to tell the truth. Examine that, look at it, feel the pain of it, hold each other in that pain, and start to heal forward. And that's what we're doing on the land with this and in the Journeys program. So truth telling is very important. I think it's the key to unlock, or else we sweep stuff under the rug and pretend. That's not going to get us in. It's going to continue the cycle that we've been in for all these hundreds of years.